All right, today's project is I'm gonna put a block heater on a 353 Detroit on the 1981 208E Timberjack skidder. So here's the block heater. That's the plug end, obviously. This end goes into the engine. This would be the cord, and this would obviously plug into the back of this. So all we need is the part, and we just got some gasket maker here. The way the skidder works is well, that's going to work. So here's obviously the engine. There's a right in there. This right here is a side plate. It's the same shape as that block heater. So we just take out 2 bolts, clean it up a little bit, and put that in and put 2 bolts in. The first thing we gotta do, however, is drain down some antifreeze to get it down to a level so it's not leaking out that port. The other option to start these skidders in the winter is you can heat the antifreeze by hooking it up to a pickup. And so there's a quick disconnect right here coming off the water pump, and you'd have a similar setup on your pickup, and you could circulate the water that way. And on another skidder we have, that's what we use, but the pickup we use is pretty stationary. So and this one here, this skidder seems to be around power a lot of the time, so we're gonna get a block heater hooked up, and that should be a big help. So all right, well, first out be drain down some antifreeze. All right, so the first step here is trying to drain some antifreeze off. There's a petcock on the bottom edge of that radiator, which you could drain it, but it's hard to capture it. So now we're going to use our quick disconnect that was already set up on this heater hose, and see if we can't drain off some that way. We've got 1 gallon drained off. We're working on getting a second one. If you didn't have that disconnect on there, I'm not sure how you drain it without essentially losing it, because it's a pretty hard chance to catch it under the radiator up there. So tap and wrench. All right, so we got the antifreeze drained down a little bit. So now we're going to get in there, and there's 1 bolt right there, right between the 2 filters. And there's 1 over on this side of that little kind of triangular oblong shaped piece. So take that off. I got my mechanic on the job today. Here's the first bolt. Now we just got that bolt right there to get. All right, so now we're working on that second bolt in the back there. The only question is, right on this bolt we took out, there's a spacer in between that bracket that holds the filters and to the engine housing. I'll be able to get this or not, but yeah, that spacer right there, right up in here. So we gotta figure out how to get that out of there. But you can see we're dripping a little antifreeze right there right now. We got it down as far as we could, but looks like it stills up to that level a little bit. So, okay, we're working on getting that spacer out. All right, so now we're loosening up that bracket that holds those fuel filters, because we gotta get that spacer out of there, and it's jammed between that bracket and the block. So just gonna try to loosen these up enough to hopefully get that spacer out. All right, so we got that loosened up enough, and we got that spacer pulled out. All right, so we got that spacer out, and we got that spacer out. So now we're gonna just try to get that little diamond shaped plug off the block of the motor. Well, we got it off. A little bit of antifreeze still came out, but not too bad. And of course, the plug dropped down the bottom of the skidder, but we'll fish that back out. All right, so here's the plate that we took off the side of the engine. And we just took that off, and the other one is basically the same shape. So just put that on. It's got the heating element in it, and the cord coming off the other side. So. All right, so we're gonna dry fit this in here. Make sure it fits into that into this diamond shaped port on the side of the block, and it's gonna go in like that.
Doesn't feel like it's hitting anything.
Doesn't feel like it hits the side of the engine wall inside or anything. So we're going to put it in like that. You can't put it going down. There's a restriction going down with it, so you can have it pointed up like that. The antifreeze is pretty high. I mean, the radiator sits up front there. It's a fair amount higher than that as it is. So. All right, so we're going to just get this set up here with a little bit of gasket maker before we put it back on.
Squeeze that.
So I'll put a bead around the edges, around both bolt holes here. All right, so we got the gasket maker all put around that. So now we'll put it on the side of the motor and hand tighten the bolts in. So here we are, just putting it back in place, putting the block heater in there, and he's putting in the first bolt. Just gonna hand tighten them. Then you're supposed to let that gasket sealer dry for an hour, and then come back and tighten them up. So. All right, so now he's putting back that spacer in, and the bolt that kind of sits in behind. He's got the block heater in there, just fishing the spacer back in on that, between that bracket that holds the fuel filters and the engine block. Okay, so now we got that block heater installed on that where that side plate was. So now we're going to take the plug and get that plugged into there. Make sure we can get that where it needs to be. And then you want to, once you get that on there, then you have your cord, and you want to route that or put it someplace where you can get at it and plug it in to an extension cord. All right, so we routed that cord up into the cab, and we're just throwing a couple zip ties on it here to keep it from traveling anywhere we don't want it. But we just brought it up in the cab. It just, I just have it dangling right there right now, but I'm sure we can find a place to tuck it. So. All right, so there's the final install on this. You see a little bit of gasket. We gotta wipe that up, but
Oh, I think we should.
so the plug's in, and it's on the side of the engine block. You see that's where it lives right there. All right, here we are. We're back the next day. We let it sit for almost 24 hours just to make sure that's sealed. Filled it back up with the antifreeze, and then I started the skidder. Brought up temperature, and we had a small leak on that inside nut, this nut right here. It was leaking out of there, so we gave that a quarter turn, and it seemed to dry it up. So had to tighten that up a little bit. But that leaked almost immediately as soon as we put antifreeze in it. So, but the engine's up to speed, have a temp now, and that's what you're supposed to do is make sure you get up temperature and the antifreeze circulate, and make sure there's no air pockets in it, so that the heating element, make sure it stays in the liquid when you start it, or when you try the heating element for the first time. So it should be good to go now. The next test will be to plug it in overnight, or have a cold night and have it plugged in, see what happens. All right, here we are. We're gonna try starting it up. It's been about 18 degrees last night. We've had it plugged in overnight. So this will be the true test. So you can see on the outside of the skidder is about 16 degrees right now. And the block looks like it's about 65 degrees, 64 degrees. So it's a good sign. All right, we're gonna see if it'll crank over and see what it does. All right, here we go. See how she fires up cold. 16 degrees on the outside of the skidder, 63 on the block. Block heater for the win. All right, we'll let it warm up here a little bit. Where's the needle?